the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor, all other protocols duly observed, it is my privilege to present to you the 13th Convocation Lecturer for Covenant University. I will be asking Dr. Temitope Fasoranti, the lecturer of today, to please rise and remain standing while I present this citation. Dr. Temitope Fasoranti was born to the family of Pa Timothy Fasoranti of Akure Town in Akure local government area of Ondo State, Nigeria. He attended St. Benedict Nursery and Private School, Abeokuta, Ogun State, and Federal Government College, Warri, Delta State, where he obtained his first school leaving certificate in 1977 and West African School Certificate in 1983. Dr. Fasoranti obtained a bachelor's degree in economics in 1988, a master's degree in economics in 1991, where he was the best graduating student, and a doctor of philosophy as interbank dealer, treasurer, and handled several capital market issues, assistant manager in corporate banking. He grew meritoriously, heading several branches and zones, and was subsequently promoted to general manager in 2006. He was general manager and group head of oil and gas conglomerate group, agriculture desk in the head office, and supervised several branches and zones, including Apapa, Surulere, Ilupeju, and Ikeja zones between 2006 Harvard Business School, USA. Creating and leading high-performance teams, the Wharton School, Pennsylvania, USA, and developing strategy for value creation, London Business School. I thought you were going to appreciate and honor the guests. Dr. Temitope Fasoranti is a Christian and is married to Mrs. Tolulope Fasoranti. They are blessed with 3 children, and his hobbies include swimming, sports, Christian, and inspirational activities. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Temitope Fasoranti.
Please, let's sit down. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I will stand on existing protocols. Let me first of all say that I had prepared a lecture for to speak for 1.5 hours. I've just been told that I have 45 minutes. So I must start to abridge. But I want to believe that most of us have a copy of the presentation and lecture. Okay, I'm sure you all get it. And it's online, I'm sure, at some point. So let me say that I am very delighted to be invited to deliver the 13th Convocation Lecture of Covenant University. I would like to express my profound gratitude to Dr. David Oyedipo, the Chairman, Board of Regents, and the Chancellor, Professor A.A.A. Atayero, the Vice Chancellor, the management, the faculty, and the staff, students, for inviting me as Convocation Lecturer at the 13th Convocation Ceremony of Covenant University, the release of the Eagles 2018. It's a genuine source of joy for me to be invited to this prestigious citadel of academic excellence, to join the list of distinguished men and women who have mounted this rostrum as Convocation Lecturer since 2006. They've already mentioned some of the names. I also have 1 or 2 names I mentioned too. Professor Joy Ogu. In 2006, she was the first person that spoke at the first Convocation Lecturer in 2006. And of course, our amiable Professor Yemi Oshibajo, the VC, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I also want to acknowledge some of the eminent individuals who have been Convocation keynote speakers, including my chairman, Jim Ovia, the founder and chairman of Zenith Bank. He was the third Convocation keynote speaker in 2008. I'm not sure how many of us can remember that. Well, it is noteworthy that the Africa-America Institute recently signed a memorandum of understanding with Covenant University to partner in several spheres of society. Covenant University has become a national pride and a clear attestation to what the fusion of vision and exemplary leadership can achieve. I want to thank Dr. David Oyedipo, the Chairman, Board of Regents, and Chancellor for his vision. And I also want to encourage the management and staff and students to continue in this culture of excellence. Introduction. So this year's Convocation lecture, titled Technological Disruption and Tertiary Education, Redefining Learning for the Future, provides a momentous opportunity for me to share my thoughts on how learning can be redefined in an era of rapid technological disruption. The focus of this year's Convocation lecture is a clarion call on us to redefine tertiary education in readiness for a future that will be predominantly driven by ever-evolving technological disruption. In this lecture, I will provide a conversation on the topic and share some personal perspectives and experience with us. Let me say that exactly how many of these graduating students, undergraduates now, were born in 1988? Okay, now, 30 years ago, what we had was video coverage, which perhaps were made into tapes. And I doubt if copies of those tapes can be found anywhere today. And even if by any miracle a copy of two were preserved, I'm almost certain that there will be no video player that can play those tapes. We used to call them VHS tapes in those days. So the video tapes of 30 years ago, as we know them, have gone completely extinct. That is technology. Today, as we are seated here, as I'm making this presentation, people in faraway locations across the globe can tune in real time via YouTube and Facebook live streaming and watch proceedings of this ceremony and interact with us if they so wish. As of 1988, when I graduated, YouTube, Facebook were not in existence. Humanity has moved beyond terrestrial satellite television to real-time web interaction enabled by ubiquitous internet connectivity. Between 1988 and now, technological disruption have placed at our disposal enormous tools and resources that no one could have imagined possible a few decades earlier. In the same manner, teaching and learning have moved beyond the physical classroom space to the digital world. So much so that you're not limited to what your lecturers teach you in class. Students now have access to teaching and learning materials from the top ranking institutions across the globe, essentially placing you at par with students in the most advanced economies of the world. Let me give a very brief overview of tertiary education. has been largely structured according to the Western model of higher education, drawing a great deal from the British American tradition. The Nigerian policy on education, tertiary education, seeks to contribute to national development through high-level manpower training, develop and inculcate proper values for the survival of the individual and society, develop the intellectual capacity of individuals to understand and appreciate their local and external environments, to acquire both physical and intellectual skills which will enable individuals to be self-reliant and useful members of the society, promote and encourage scholarship and community service, forge and cement national unity, and promote national and international understanding. In Nigeria, extant regulations allows for both public and private tertiary education space. As a result, tertiary institutions can be established by the federal and the state government, as well as individuals and organizations. This arrangement presents a massive opportunity for knowledge generation, skills development, and problem-solving opportunities for diverse segments of the society. State governments, for instance, can set up colleges of education to address shortage of science teachers, provided the story of human progress is possible because of technological waves. The concept speaks to and challenges our instincts to solve human problems using fresh and smarter technological methods. Let me look at some sectors where we've seen very high technological innovation. Let's start with agriculture. Technological innovation is impacting crop production through the deployment of agricultural drones equipped with cameras and sensors that can monitor crops growing on the field. They help farmers to gather information on crop yield, general crop health, and pest activities. The data gathered are used to determine the type of intervention required to improve crop yield. Agric drones have radically changed the way farmers inspect and monitor extensive farm areas in terms of the numbers of personnel deployed. What about medicine? Massive strides in medicine. I would just have to move faster. But let me talk about banking. Banking. Technological innovation has changed the way we carry out financial services. A number of technologies have come together to make delivery of banking services possible with or without access to a physical bank branch. Using a network of web, mobile, ATMs, SMS, and email services, bank customers are now able to access almost all bank services without recourse to a brick and mortar branch. What have banks done? What banks have done is to develop robust virtual banking suites to exist alongside their physical branch locations. I'm sure many of you have not visited a physical bank branch in a while, am I correct? Because you use your phones and your tablets and your devices to do transactions. What about commerce? Commerce. Disruption in commerce. In much the same way, commerce activities have evolved due to electronic commerce, which you call e-commerce. In my view, e-commerce is perhaps the most telling development to have happened within the buying and selling landscape after the introduction of money that dislodged trade by barter. E-commerce. Today, platforms on e-commerce are bringing buyers and sellers of goods and services together, breaking barriers like language, distance, all are broken on the internet. A researcher can buy books. A university can pay for video conference subscriptions Students can pay their fees conveniently online, all thanks to e-commerce. E-commerce has revolutionized the culture of buying and selling and created a whole new and ever expanding marketplace. Now let me pause to talk about one very interesting aspect of technological innovation. And I will title it the technological innovation and the problem-solving mindset. And I'm saying this to the students specifically. The tertiary education that you have acquired in Covenant University as prime eagles challenge the existing orders. Be continuously curious and seek better ways of doing things. One of the greatest gifts that God has given us is the gift of creativity, which is the ability to bring to mind what is presently not in existence. Be inquisitive and seek better ways to get things done. As some will say, always think outside the box. Or even better still, think like there's no box. The major breakthrough in technological innovation today are mostly driven by young people like you. In Uganda, for example, a 24-year-old, Brian Gita, developed an award-winning device that detects telltale signs of malaria by simply shining a red beam of light on the patient's finger. He's 24. How did Brian Gita achieve the feat? He had a problem. Conventional blood tests failed to diagnose his own malaria. Rather than despair and blame whoever for his misfortune, Brian Gita's creative instinct kicked in. He began why a new way of using the skills we have found in computer science to diagnose a disease without having to prick the patient. Today, he has invented a low-cost, reusable device for the diagnosis of malaria that is non-invasive and does not require any specialist training. It leaves the existing market leader in a much less profitable situation. It brings new players into the market and displaces existing players that are unwilling to innovate. We can think of many examples of companies that have been disrupted. How many of us can remember Nokia? Nokia, they were disrupted. Samsung and iPhone disrupted Nokia. What about our night posts? They're all moribund all over the world now. Postal services. They've been disrupted by emails and courier services who are more efficient. So what are the exact impacts of tech disruption on tertiary education? Number one, technological disruption has brought a high level of competition among tertiary institutions. Tech disruption is compelling tertiary institutions to innovate more. Why? In order to remain competitive and attract student patronage. Technological disruption here is best seen from the innovative approaches that go into making the teaching and the learning experience more seamless, effective, and convenient for all the concerned parties, whether they are administrators, teachers, researchers, and the learners. If I'm a vendor providing a service, a customer may choose to patronize another vendor if my services is not worth the cost. So this understanding will compel me to deploy all my tools to deliver the best level of service possible to keep me ahead of competition. So technological disruption becomes a competitive advantage. Today, however, of the National University Commission, Rashid Abubakar, during a Senate public hearing held in October 24, 2017, only about 30% of the average 1.7 million UTME candidates are able to secure admission into the Nigerian tertiary institutions. Consequently, they have no motivation to innovate. But let me say this, in the future, as the socio-economic well-being of the Nigerians improve, public universities will have no alternative but to innovate, to remain competitive and continue to attract studentship. Technological disruption and internationalization. Technological disruption and internationalization of tertiary education has become one of the major trends in the development of higher education in recent years. Tertiary institutions around the world are in the classroom. Let me talk about the non-conventional education providers. Technological disruption in the higher education space implies that non-conventional education providers will emerge. Some MOOCs are owned by established higher institutions, while others are based on collaborations between employees going to the library, locating those sections and indexes. One cannot help but wonder how we survived those days. You know, my daughter, I recall when I was trying to buy books for her, she's in a tertiary institution too. So she told me that she can buy the book or buy the book online. So the textbook you want to buy, you can buy it online and it stays online and you have to read it online. Or you can just buy the physical book. That is technology. In those days, students journey to other institutions to access books, periodicals, especially when they're writing their final year thesis. I don't think many of you had to travel around to look for your research materials. Did you guys do that? Why? It's online. It's online. So, you guys have no reason not to excel beyond expectations. We never had this opportunity. It's a very good example of innovation. This solution allows users to quickly access the item on the catalog from the comfort of their locations on campus. They can monitor the charging and discharging of items on the catalog and book items online. I understand that this solution helps the university community to do more than I've even enumerated. Research. This is one of the major reasons for the existence of tertiary institutions, research and innovation. Let me talk about tech disruption and administration. Many of the parents here and my colleagues, the lecturers, will have very intriguing stories about the experience with course registration some 40, 20, 10 years ago. Course registration in 1984, when I joined OAU, was a nightmare. For the first 3 or 4 weeks, in the new session, students line up to sign manual course registration forms. It was terrible. Sometimes you go there, the lecturer is not around. You come back the next day, you know, it was chaos. But today, institutions register their students online. Well, some institutions might still have challenges with course registration, but this need not be the case at a time when web applications are easy to build and can be adapted to manage enrollment process and administration of students' profiles. Today, web application can be adapted for course registration, results management, lecture, timetable scheduling or rescheduling, information dissemination, student performance tracking. All that is online. Now, these are things that were nightmares to do 30 years ago. To check your results, it's a nightmare. Sometimes your timetable has changed, it's a nightmare. But now, everything is done online. So the aggregate of these innovative efforts is what define the student experience and facilitate the learning process within an institution. But there are potential risks. What are the potential risks of to assess and grade students' essay-type examination? Very soon. So what does this portend for lecturers and the teaching profession? Your guess is as good as mine. But the upside for humans has been this. Machines lack intuition. Machines lack imagination. And machines lack creativity, which are still indispensable. Humans, however, are not able to perform certain tasks as machines do with precision and dexterity. So, while I would not want to sound as an alarmist, we should begin to think seriously how to collaborate better with machines for enhanced teaching. And Paul Singer, that tells the Israeli story of innovation in their book Startup Nation. Startup Nation by Dan Sino and Paul Singer. Decision making and problem solving. So this interdependence and the need to solve battlefield problems is what makes them what they are today. And I can tell you that the graduates from these programs have become Israel's top academician and founders of its most successful companies. Furthermore, most of Israel's startups were either founded or managed by people who have distinguished themselves along these programs. So let me say this. The modern economy that will find, if you want credits, you will say yes or no. And the machine can take you through the process of all your inquiries without any human interference. Customized learning solutions that will address the peculiar needs of each student. This technology is a key component of the set of innovations that will drive personalized learning in the future. So let us be prepared. In addition, I spoke about the edutechs. These are educational software solutions that will upend the traditional tertiary institutions. They will offer adjacent services in a case just like banking. MIB Technology is a tech company in KwaZulu. For the future, must collaborate and work in the world. They were founded in 2012 by two people, Andrew Ng and Daphne Koller. They were both computer science professors at Stanford University at that time. How they transited from offering their courses online to building a business with 167 partners across the world is a remarkable story. Please go and read about it. In Nigeria, we're already seeing the entrance of local entrepreneurs who are taking advantage of this understanding of the local educational terrain. There's the duo of Kemi Demuri and Bumi Akin Yemiju. They founded EduTech through the venture capital firm in 2012, and they started with building portals for some universities in Nigeria. EduTech desire to help traditional universities in Africa take their on-campus degree programs online. To help traditional universities implement the very best of technology with their on-campus courses. Currently, they have 9 programs deployed on the platform with more than 16,000 enrollments. While many universities in Nigeria are still managing their own e-learning platforms, the expectation is that there will be more cooperation between the two. Our higher institutions should have in-house teams who can study these models and adapt them to deliver innovative learning solutions for now and the future. What is the future of learning? Leveraging the power of mobile devices. I know in my heart that smartphones, mobile devices, and tablets will have a greater place for the learning process of the future. Smartphones are ubiquitous in our lives, impacting the way we communicate, access entertainment, and carry out banking activities. It has equally changed the way we receive information and access the internet. This piece of technology, the smartphones, along with less common ones like augmented reality and virtual reality devices, they have a role to play in enriching the learning experience at the tertiary education level now and in the future. What are the pushbacks? Tackling the pushbacks. As we prepare for the future, it is important that we remain focused on addressing those challenges that have kept the tertiary education sector in Nigeria greatly behind the global technological innovation curve. It is true that we have a challenge with some critical infrastructures like broadband access and power. There are also issues with organization and funding of research and development ventures. These challenges make the task of innovation daunting in Nigeria and in Africa. However, the opportunity for incremental progress is abundant. We must embrace the challenge at individual and at institutional levels. We will need the collaboration between the private sector, government, and tertiary institutions. We have the opportunity to simply adapt and leverage available technologies to enhance our capacity to provide services that have great impact on the learning process. Let me start to conclude with some personal reflections. Personal reflections. I have reflected deeply on today's events, what I could say that will help the Eagles to avoid some pitfalls in your career path. And drawing from my experience and perspective and the experience of others that I know, I want to talk about the responsible use of social media. Technological disruption have provided us with fantastic digital tools for enhanced productivity. However, if you do not exercise caution and restraint, digital tools could become a serious source of distraction from the real world that we live in. Eagles, please take off your headphones, your mobile phones, and live in the real world. The world of social media is not the real world. I know that you guys don't use mobile phones on this campus, and it's very good. Because if you go to other campuses, I've seen Students knocked down because they didn't hear a car coming because they have mobile phones in their ears. So, let me talk a little bit about social media and the impact on the younger generation. See, while the responsible use of social media may have its upsides and could be desirable to stay in touch with friends and families and engage in meaningful local and national conversation, I want to urge you, exercise utmost restraint in these social media platforms. Social media has become a source of unnecessary anxiety for people who see and follow the carefully curated pictures and stories of their friends on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat, and they begin to despair because they think that their friends are living a more fabulous life than they are. It's all virtual reality. I would therefore urge you, please live in the real world. When you achieve feats and milestones, as you have been primed to achieve in this great institution, you are expected to celebrate these achievements in real life, not on social media. When you have testimonies to share, share them in your churches, not on social media. As much as possible, live in the real world and not the social media world. Finding your elements, another of my thoughts, finding your elements. This concept was popularized by Sir Ken Robinson, a renowned educationist and reformer. And according to him, the element is where natural aptitude meets personal passion, doing something for which you have a natural feel. The first and most important step in finding your element is an understanding of your own aptitude. What's your personal passion? When you're in your element, you will love what you do and you will essentially be having fun of your life in your process. As Confucius stated, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. Bottom line, Eagles, wherever you find yourself, make the most of the opportunity. Do what you love. Let me talk about the renowned biologist Wangari Maathai, the late Kenyan Nobel Prize laureate majored in biology. She went on in life to start the Green Belt movement, an environmental, non-governmental institution organized and focused on the planting of trees with environmental conservation. She made her mark in the world by being a great crusader for our environment. She was simply planting trees. She planted 51 million trees in Kenya. That was her passion. Conclusions and closing remarks. So, let me pause to ask our Eagles, what are your visions in life? What are your dreams in life? Can you think about it for a moment? Everyone has a dream. What is yours? Every single achievement starts with a clear vision. This great citadel we are all in today was a vision of our amiable Dr. David Oyedepo. Zenith Bank is a vision of one man, Jim Ovia. Apple is the vision of Steve Jobs and two other friends of his. Bill Gates and Paul Allen's vision produced what? Microsoft. Uber, that we all use, was a vision of two people, Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp. What is your vision? And what are your dreams? What do you want to innovate? The importance of vision in your life cannot be overemphasized. Vision will keep you on track and focused because you know exactly where you are headed and how you plan to get there. Vision will make you persevere in the face of the vagaries of life. At age 15, I decided I wanted to be a banker. I'm not a banker. I didn't stumble into the profession. That was the vision I had for myself. That was my career vision. And I'm grateful that I took that decision early enough. After my mandatory NYSC, my peers raced straight into the labor market. But I decided to go back to school and study for a master's degree in economics. The decision to resist the allure of getting a job, earning money, settling down in life was not an easy one. It entailed numerous trade-offs and opportunity costs. I decided from the onset that for me to be a successful banker and distinguish myself, I need a higher degree. Achieving your goals in life requires sacrifice, requires commitment, requires perseverance and determination. I earned my master's degree from Obafemi Awolowo University in 1991. And I was primed at that time for the labor market. At this time, some of my peers already had jobs, while some were still job hunting. And by the way, if you look back at 1991, when I finished my master's, and comparing that era to this present day, not much has changed in terms of the outlook of the Nigerian economy. Employment opportunities were also scarce at that time. So I don't want you to despair, okay? And in point of fact, if I look back, some might even say 1991 was worse. Because at that time, Nigeria was under military rule. The country was like internationally alienated. And economic opportunities were scant in 91. The future at that time could be described as bleak. For 9 months, I crisscrossed the entire Lagos, submitting my resume, scouting for job openings. And some of you will crisscross too, but don't give up. 9 months looking for a job. At that time, there was no Jobberman, there was no online recruitment portals. You have to move from office to office, drop CVs, you know. There was no internet. In fact, there was internet very rarely in 1991. Access to that was difficult. There were no mobile phones or tablets. Only elites had landlines, if you can remember, and post office mailboxes, which were highly inefficient and grossly unavailable in 91. For months, 9 months, I did not receive a single invitation for a job interview. But I kept hope alive and prepared myself to take the opportunity when it finally comes. And eventually it came in September 91 when I was called for interview and subsequently I was employed as an entry-level staff at FBN Merchant Bankers. I took my chances. I left FBN in 97 and joined Zenith Bank, where I have been since then for 1 years and risen to become an executive director. The essence, thank you. The essence of this narrative is simply to drive home the importance of vision and diligence. From the outset, I had a vision of my banking career, and I moved and I stayed with it. And we are familiar with the story of how eagles renew their strength. It's important to tell the story again, and I will crave your indulgence. The eagle has the longest lifespan of its species and can live up to 70 years. But to reach this age, the eagle has to take some tough decisions, make some hard choices, make some difficult choices. About its 35th to 40th year, its long and flexible talons can no longer grab the prey, which serves as food. Its long and sharp beak becomes bent. Its wings fall off. They're too thick. Then the eagle is left with two options: die or go through the painful process of change, which lasts about 150 days. What does the eagle do? The eagle will fly to a mountain top and sit on its nest. There, the eagle knocks its beak against the rock until it plucks it out. After plucking it out, the eagle will wait for a new beak to grow back, and then it will pluck out its talons. When its new talon grows back, the eagle starts to pluck out all the old aged feathers. Then after 5 months, the eagle takes its famous flight of rebirth and lives for up to another 30 years. Why is the story of the eagle's rebirth important? As you are released as eagles today into the real world, you will need to constantly renew your strength to survive and to thrive. Do not be stuck in the past because the world is rapidly changing. Expand your knowledge frontier. Study. Do not say there is no time. God told Joshua to study the book of the law, meditate on it day and night, so that you prosper and be successful. And I will leave you with the same advice. Study. Continue to read. Reinvent yourselves. Renew your strengths and thrive in a dynamic world. The transformation the world is undergoing promises to be unlike anything humankind has ever experienced. In fact, the transformation that we've seen in the last 30 years was not seen in the last 200 years in the world. Technological disruption is upending almost every industry in all countries, transforming entire systems of production, management, governance, and learning. While we cannot fully discern the full ramifications of tech disruption at this nascent stage, you have received education for the future without any clue or idea of what the future will look like. This is the challenge that we must face. Notwithstanding all the challenges the world is grappling with presently, I want you to know that you are stepping into the best time in the human history. Today, our civilization is at crossroads, having reached a unique moment in history. We are at the cusp of major shifts that are altering and redefining the way we live and learn, the way we work, the way we relate with one another. The changes we are experiencing are of monumental proportions and are driven by technological disruptions, especially the convergence of the physical environment and the digital space. We are now in the era of connectivity, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, robotics, cloud computing, which are combining to enable the Internet of Things. The new age we are living in is typified by the speed of technological breakthroughs, the pervasiveness of scope, and the tremendous impact of all new systems. This is the era of the fourth industrial revolution, aptly described by Professor Klaus Schwab, that's the founder and the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. This is the world you are stepping in and the world you'll be living in. You are expected to be active participants in the disruption process and reap the benefits. You are not expected to end up as mere consumers or spectators. Whole new industries are emerging to offer products and services that will increase human efficiency, embrace human well-being. In this emerging new order, the opportunities are limitless. Enormous wealth will be created for those who ride the new waves. I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that Covenant University has prepared you adequately to thrive. As you step out today, imbibe the attributes of the eagle. Eagles have vision. Have a clear vision and be focused on your vision. Eagles embrace the storm. You will go through storms, embrace challenges, but they are necessary to lift you to greater heights. Eagles flock together. Choose your company carefully. Eagles, they renew their strength. Constantly reinvent yourself to be relevant. Eagles fly at high altitudes. Aim for the top. Do not settle for the little things. Spread your wings and soar like the eagles that you are. Congratulations, and God bless you. Thank you very much.